Yes, yes, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Deep Dive. I am the host of From Bromley with Love, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and the familiar guests, the familiar panel are back. We got Cole Head, erstwhile editor of Two Footed Tackle. For the new Bromley fans, you possibly were never around for Two Footed Tackle, but before From Bromley with Love existed, Two Footed Tackle was the proud father of all independent football writing covering Bromley. And if you need any historian when it comes to Bromley Football Club, if you need any historian when it comes to Bromley Football Club, Colin Head is definitely your man. And of course, copywriter, copy editor extraordinaire, takeawaycopy.com. Go check that out, people. We got Peter Etherington with us as well. Chaps, how you doing?
Really good, thank you.
Can't complain.
Can't complain. Well, I'll tell you who can't complain. Bromley Football Club can't complain. Because
what a segue. What a segue.
I really plan these things. But since the last time we recorded, Bromley have played 6 matches. But let's deal first and foremost with the league matches. We may or may not cover the Virtue Trophy. Let's deal with the league matches. We've played Cambridge away, lost a bruising encounter 2-1. MK Dons at home, 1-2-1. Colchester United away, 1-2-0. And then at the time of recording yesterday, Barrow at home, 1-2-1. 3 wins from our last 4. If you include the Crew fixture, which we included on our previous episode, it's 4 wins from our last 5. I see that Bromley have tweeted today that the Bromley Instagram handle has tweeted today that Bromley are currently the most informed team in League 2. What more can you say to that, Cole? What's your feelings on Bromleyans as we're not in December yet, but as we come to the close of the year, about a month and a half from the close of the year, Bromley are 5th in League 2. What's your feelings and thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we're a third of the way into the season, and I guess we just have to start taking it seriously. The interview you did with Andy was really interesting yesterday, because that's the first time he said that we're targeting the automatic spots. And realistically, if we carry on doing what we're doing, it's we can make a challenge. It's incredible times, really. Yeah, really good.
Most definitely. And Pete, before I ask any further questions, your thoughts as we approach the end of the year.
Cautiously optimistic. And the reason I say cautiously is because I feel like we've been here before, earlier in the season. Bromley were flying, and we sat here in these same seats, and we tried to predict the run of games to come, and the points total we came up with was ridiculous. And Bromley then went on a bit of a naff run, and so this time, cautiously optimistic. I said at that time there was no reason Bromley shouldn't be aiming for the top notches of the league, just because their style is so effective. So if they can keep that up, and if teams can't find a way to counteract it, then they've got every chance of being in not just the playoff conversation, serious automatic promotion conversation.
Yeah, let's learn our lesson from last time.
Definitely.
and that's all 3 of us, not any one person in particular. So let's learn our lesson from last time and not over predict or be overconfident about what comes next. But where I think we should start, and I alluded to it in both the interview with Andy after Barrow, and even when I did my own verdict as well. And I've just written, Pete's just edited it, but I haven't posted it yet. I've just written the good, the bad, and the ugly from that Barrow game. But let's start with our style of play. Where do you stand on it, gentlemen? And the reason why I say that is because I've had quite a few people reach out to me and have quite differing views on Bromley's style of play. Now, I'll be honest with you both. I don't care, in so much as I'll admit that at times it's very turgid and it looks quite brutalist on the eye. but in football, what is football about? Are you here to entertain, or are you here to win football matches? There is something about this Bromley side that kind of reminds me, and maybe I'm being a bit too nostalgic here. The style of play kind of reminds me of the Crazy Gang, on Kinnear, where you just beat up sides in a really uncompromising manner and make no apologies for how you're going about your business. Now, Cole, I know you followed Joe Kinnear's Wimbledon side in that era. Is that a silly analogy to make?
No, because that's exactly the analogy I made to my friend who is an AFC Wimbledon supporter, and I used to go occasionally to watch Wimbledon play at Selhurst Park, and I said to him, this Bromley team reminds me of Kinnear's Wimbledon. As someone who grew up watching a bit of that and also thoroughly enjoying Jack Charlton's Ireland team, I absolutely love the way we play football at the moment. I've got no apologies for it, and if you don't like it, that's great, because the more we intimidate and scare the opposition, the better it is for us.
Pete,
I'm on board with that. As a fan of brutalist architecture, I've got no problem with doing it dirty. So, I wasn't around. I mean, I was around for the Crazy Gang, but I was too young to appreciate what they were doing. But for me, it reminds me a bit of Stoke when they had, Rory Delap winging in throws. In as much as everyone was making fun of him, everyone was saying, "Oh, what a ridiculous style," and yet slowly but surely, everyone cottoned on to, well, we can make fun of them if we want, but they keep nicking results. They keep getting something out of games they have no right to be in, and Bromley are better footballers in terms of their league context. They probably could hold their own sort of mid to lower mid-table just by playing nice football or trying to play nice football, but they're so good at, the rough house, cheap tricks, well, not cheap tricks, but, playing the dark arts. And yeah, I mean, for Vinnie Jones, perhaps, I don't know if Bromley have an equivalent of that, but it's probably Jude Arthurs, I suppose. But maybe earlier in his career, you'd expect him to, be in danger of a red card, but I can't even remember the last time he was booked. So I've no problem with it. And if people do have a problem with it, like Carl says, fine, have a problem with it. But as long as Bromley keep putting up the results, what's not to like?
Let me read some stats to you both. So these are player stats. This could be a lengthy list, to be fair. So I don't know when I'm going to pause it, but at some point I will. These are the top three. So each of these lists I'm reading out to you just gives you the top three in these categories. So top scorer, this is League Two stats, sorry. Top scorer, Michael Cheek is second with 8 goals. Assists, Mitchell Pinnock is first with 5. Goals and assists, Michael Cheek is first with 11. Goals per 90 minutes, like on average across 90 minutes, Nicky Kabamba is first with 0.89. Expected goals, for those who go into all of that kind of jargon, Michael Cheek is second with 7.6. For those who don't get that, that means he should have scored 7.6 goals. He scored 8. So he's basically tracking with what he should actually be doing, which is what you want a striker to be doing. Of course, you could overperform that as well, which is actually what he's technically doing. Expected goals on target, Michael Cheek is third, 7.7. Big chances created, Mitchell Pinnock is first with 7. Chances created, Mitchell Pinnock is first with 46. And just to put that in perspective, Mitchell Pinnock has created 46 chances this season. The next person below him has created 34. Just to put that in perspective in terms of what Pinnock has added to this Bromley team this season. Expected assists, Mitchell Pinnock is first with 4.6. You catch the drift of what I'm doing here. I will stop at some point. I think that might... Oh, sorry. Possession... Here's an interesting one. Possession 1 in the final third. Marcus Dananga is first with 1.8. right? I don't know how they do that stat, but I just thought that was interesting to me that he's first in that regard. And those are individual player stats. That's not even team stats. But what's quite interesting to me is this, right? I am privy to those stats, which means every football team in the league is privy to those stats, which means every analyst in every football team in the league is privy to those stats. I didn't even read out the set piece stuff. At the end of the Colchester game last week, Danny Cowley said Bromley are the best team in the league when the ball is dead, right? So here's my question to you both. If everyone knows these stats, knows what Bromley do, knows that Mitchell Pinnock is going to create chances, knows that Michael Cheek, they saw everything Michael Cheek did last season, so they know what he's all about. They know that Nicky Kabamba has added another goal threat and another battering ram up front to sometimes complement Cheek or do the job without Cheek, whatever it might be. Why can't they stop us, Cole?
Because we're very good at what we do. And it's not easy to defend against. I think that's the whole thing. I think you've seen teams at the top level in this country now are embracing set pieces and long throws and pressure and realising that it's a very effective way to score goals and to put other teams under the cosh.
Pete.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Stoke analogy I made earlier, it was the same. You've got some of the most expensive defenders in the world getting done by guys on a fraction of their salary with a big whip ball. Basically every throw-in becomes a set piece.
Yeah.
And unless for Bromley's opposition, unless they find a way, unless they can pack their side with players of the size and stature of like Omar Shomi and guys like that, how do you, unless you can stick another couple of inches on each of your centre halves, and then you've got Michael Cheek coming in the box, and you've got all the other players lining up. How do you defend against that? You have to jump higher, be stronger, and the only teams that have really got anywhere with defending it is the teams that have played the dark arts and been as physical, matched them physically. And even then, you can still fall foul to a ball falling down to someone you don't want it to fall to. It's effective, as Cole said, and it's so hard to defend against.
I think the only team that out Bromleyed us was Cambridge.
Yeah, I was going to say
I
Cambridge.
come away from that and thinking, wow, they beat us up. That's what it feels like. Yeah,
100%. So I went to that Cambridge game because to me that was almost like that felt like a local derby in terms of ease to get to the game, right?
Yeah.
But that first half of Cambridge Bromley, I felt like I'd been run over by a tank. So God knows what the players. I don't know what the players felt like, but you literally in that first half could be like, we didn't come. We were so far off it, like just literally just overpowered and overrun for the whole duration of the half. And it's like, oh, that's what happens when someone actually tries to take us on our own game. But I think Pete's made a good point. The thing is, you can't. I think what a lot of teams are finding difficult is you can know what Bromley are all about. And so many managers, I speak to them at Hayes Lane post-match, and they're like, we studied all week. We knew what Bromley were going to throw at us. We know they like to stick it in the mixer. We know they like to get balls into the box. We knew we had to defend. But I actually think, as reductive as this sounds, I actually think Bromley wear teams down. Like, you have to, because basically, you have to know for the whole 90 minutes, but they're still going to keep sticking it in the box. They're still going to try and wait for a set piece. They're still going to try and wait for percentages and to win a second contact. Shawamni's still going to come up for the next corner. And if you switch off for just one of those opportunities, someone's likely to make you pay for it. And I think so that's why I'm using the phrase of you get worn down by it, because you're asking for hyper concentration and asking your players to stick to the game plan for the whole 90 minutes of a team just refusing to do anything other than pepper your penalty area over and over and over again. But what I love, and this is where we'll go to next, and what we started to see in this last month or so that we're recapping, is Andy's utilizing, and I'm not just saying this with the recency bias of Barrow, because I think we saw it at Colchester last week as well. Andy's starting to turn to his bench and say, "Oh, you're starting to cope with this. Okay, now let me bring on the runners and the players with the guile." Thoughts on that, Cole?
Yeah, I agree. I after your interview yesterday, I kind of thought about it. We're almost like a rugby union team where we've got starters and finishers now. You know, you get to 60, 65 minutes, and we know we cover the games. We always make a load of substitutes around the hour mark. It's what we do because our players are asked to work incredibly hard. You've got to be super fit to play this style of football. So yeah, I think now we've got a bench. You look at the bench, like every week I look at the team sheet, you think, wow, every single one of those on the bench has got a claim to start. And when we make a replacement now, there's no dip in quality. You know, it's more about changing shape, but the team stays stronger. If not stronger when we bring some of these players on. But it's really interesting in the interview you did with him yesterday because it is about like we'll take it to an hour, we'll keep it tight, we'll make it difficult, and then we'll bring on an attacking midfielder and another striker. And that's what you say. Teams are we've battered a team for say 65 minutes, and then we add some extra pace and strength up front.
Yeah. Pete, before I come to you, because I can't imagine as a defender you're up against Michael Cheek, who you know will go up for every single contact. The thing with Cheeky is he don't even have to win the ball. His actual presence is actually a problem because defenders are just mindful of him. And then when I saw Kabamba come on with like 20 whatever to go, I was like, you're now got 2 battering rams coming at you for the final 20 minutes. Like, it's long. It's long. A fresh Kabamba just backing into you and causing havoc for you for the next 20 minutes. And I think, Pete, if I go back to that point, that it reiterates that point that I've got about you're not being given any let up.
No, I mean, you've got the starters grinding you down. You've got Jude Arthurs, Will Hondermark, Ashley Charles just popping balls around you. They grind you down. What did Andy Woodman call them? The dogs yesterday. And that's it. They're in there to just grind you down, bark at you. And then you've got the finishers coming on, asking serious questions in different ways. And tired minds, tired legs. And look, the other team get their substitutions as well, and their substitutions can change the game. But probably just and Andy Woodman seems to have a knack of knowing who's going to affect this game the best, who's going to who does this game need, and he can turn to his bench and go, Crowhouse, on you, on you go, and that's it's a position Bromley have not really been in since. Well, I don't know. It's a higher level now. So yeah, there's a game plan. It's not just rough them up and rough and tumble. There's a game plan to it, and it's great to see.
Let's talk about some individuals, and it feels. Thing is, there's so many different individuals we can pick out to put this in perspective. Cheek has almost gone under the radar this season. And some of you listening to this, some of the fans listening to this might say, what do you mean by that comment? What I mean is he's still doing exactly what he did last season, but I don't feel like Cheek's getting the plaudits this time round. Now it's just gone back to, oh, well, that's what Cheek does. He just scores, right? The plaudits for me this season are being shared around a whole, and I'm talking internally within the Bromley setup and fan base. I think the plaudits are going elsewhere this season, and Cheek's almost benefiting from the fact of maybe last season you could argue without Cheek's goals, would we have done so well last season? Whereas this season it feels like Cheek's just doing what he does, as opposed to that is the difference, right? I'd argue that you take Pinnock out of this side, you're reducing Bromley by 25%, right? Yeah. In terms of effectiveness. But then at the same time, I look at someone like Idris Odeteo. You take him out, I think that reduces Bromley by a certain percentage. Deji's in the side. I can't think of anything that Deji's done wrong since he got back inside. Omar is pretty much a guaranteed starter. At the beginning of the season, he weren't even in the team, if you see where I'm coming from. Ashley Charles quietly goes about his business. No fanfare. I doubt any Bromley fan ever has him down as their player of the game, but probably is the most consistent player in our team, but just nobody really notices him because he just goes about his business. Kabamba arguably has made one of the biggest differences this season by taking goal pressure off Cheek. Yeah. Where do you want to start with that, lads? There's so many. I haven't even mentioned Marcus Eiffel, who has played right back for the last 2 games, and nobody would have thought he'd be playing right back this season. So where do you want to start with that goal?
I completely agree. We've got, Deji. Let's start with at the back. Deji. Now we're basically going to be playing once a week. You can't see him. You'd have to pick him every Saturday. Same with Omar, same with Idris. So that's, you're building from the back end. It's already looking really, really good. Pinnock, I agree with Pinnock. Without Pinnock, we would lack a lot. He's the one guy. He's been an absolutely inspired signing. He's really changed the game for us and made us even more dangerous going forward. And then, I'm a big fan of Kabamba's, but he's proven himself, and his attitude is fantastic because he comes on with 20 minutes to go and there's none of this, why not starting? It's like, right, straight away, I'm on my job, and I'm going to team up with Cheek and I will get a goal. And he's going to score, when the ball's around the box, he might not score from any further out than 10 yards, but he's always in the place where you just need to be to get the ball in the net. We've got so many good assets. And, I will put my hand up, right? Ashley Charles has won me over this season. I'm watching him more carefully after listening to you guys talk about him in the last podcast. And I like what he does. I probably haven't appreciated as much as I do this season. I'm enjoying the new spot on the East End because you're that little bit further up and you can see a bit more of it from a higher vantage point. We're good all over the pitch.
Pete.
Well, listening to that, I was just thinking, are Bromley one injury away from a big problem? Because if Pinnock goes out of it, Smash just said that's 25% of your output. What do you do? We used to say the same with Cheek, though, and Cheek never gets injured for whatever, touch wood, but somehow he never gets injured for more than a game or so. But are they one injury away from suddenly being, in a very different situation? This season, I think we've got a big, deep enough bench to be able to hold Bromley be able to hold their own. But it is a bit worrying that there isn't, that Pinnock is such a focal point this year, whereas it's been Cheek in previous seasons. And Cheek this season, actually, I think, whereas last season, teams cottoned onto him and, just got in front of him, got behind him, tried to stop him any way they can. This season, the one they need to be stopping is Pinnock, and they don't seem to have found a way to do it yet because he's a League One player playing in League Two.
Yeah.
So without him, you turn to Brooklyn Alunga. Without a transfer window, it's Brooklyn Alunga, who is fantastic, but not the same kind of player. So it's great to have him on the bench to come on, and as he progresses, he will get better. But it's not the same thing. But like Cole said, Ashley Charles, I think, is slowly but surely people kind of understanding what he does. But Bromley, we were discussing this yesterday, Mash. Bromley kind of need another Ashley Charles to be able to step in and take some of the heat off, and because he's going to end up playing a lot of minutes of football otherwise. But
go on, sorry.
I was going to say, it is one game a week from now on, roughly. But it's our Bromley one bad injury away from a bit of a wake up call.
And it makes you understand why Andy was so keen to rest so many players against Wimbledon in the Virtue Trophy.
Yeah.
Because I suspect, Pete, that he's thinking in his head, if I play these players in the Virtue Trophy, yes, it would be nice if Bromley get through to the next round. But if one of them was to get injured in the Virtue Trophy, was it worth it when we've got a clear target in the league that we're working to? And arguably, if it, like, I've got to make a kind of football manager, championship manager analogy here, you want to get to a point this season where you can take the likes of Pinnakoff and Cheekov with 10 minutes to go. That's the ideal scenario in games where you're like, right, we've got a 2-goal advantage here. Cheek, off you come. Let me ensure that you don't get in. Like, that's where ideally we want to get to. Pinnock's the hard. Cheek, I think we've actually started to do that a bit this season and not just demand that he plays 90 minutes every single game, because obviously you've got Kabamba who can come on as a like for like. With Pinnock, do you know what would happen actually? If Pinnock did ever go down with an injury, they'd have to recall Bez Topoloj. Remember, he's actually only on loan. Now, whether he'd want to come back or not, that's another question altogether. but he's actually on loan at Hartlepool. I'm sure it's on loan with an obligation to buy or something, but he is actually only on loan at Hartlepool. But it's very, very interesting that essentially, as you say, Pete, as effective as it's been, there's a bit of a touch wood scenario to this. But Cole, actually, something that Pete and I discussed post-match yesterday is when the January window opens, if Bromley are still where they are now, let's just say just anywhere in the playoffs, even if it's only 7th, they are almost obligated to strengthen because, and I haven't quizzed Robin about it or Andy about it, but that's the whole point of the transfer window in January. If you're down the relegation zone, you strengthen to make sure you don't go down. And if you're in the top 7 and you're a team who are upwardly mobile like Bromley, you're facing a potential rare opportunity to really get in and amongst it, right? If they were to strengthen in January, Cole, there's some difficult choices that are coming up. So I'm going to say it. I'm wary because some players might be watching this on their burner, and I don't want them getting upset. But it is what it is at the same time. I can foresee a situation where potentially Marcus Denangra is allowed out, whether on loan, whether permanently, to free up some resources. But whether you see that or whether you don't see that, Cole, what positions would you strengthen if we could?
Yeah, sure. Because I say we were discussing this as well on the way back from the game yesterday, and there is no Newcastle money this year. So, maybe we would be looking at loans rather than signings. I don't know, unless we free up some budget. I'm not sure. I guess another midfielder. It depends. If you're putting a striker out on loan, possibly another striker, but they've got to be. It's a very difficult. They're difficult boots to fill because you kind of know when you come in, you've got Cheek, you've got Kabamba, you're gonna be at best third choice if you come in as a striker. And in midfield, you're gonna have to bide your time. So it's a difficult sell, but I would think we might be going a couple of leagues up for a couple of loan players.
Pete, any views?
Well, I know you've got an article on the horizon so I don't want to ruin that. But what we were talking about yesterday was, which position Bromley would need to strengthen in, and I had a different concept of it until I spoke to you about the position in particular. Now I won't give it away because I think you're going to talk about it in your article. But yeah, it's certainly not the midfield position that I had in mind when asked the same question. So it is the midfield, but it's not necessarily the position that people would assume. But I won't say it because I think you'll probably cover it in your article, so I won't give that away. But yeah, that's that. I think everyone's kind of thinks, another striker, another Michael Cheika. But actually, probably got too many strikers. That's why Denanga needs to probably find a fresh pasture. Great runner, but dedicated and can score a goal, but he's just at the moment you just don't feel like when he's on he's gonna get that goal, get the important goal. But he's definitely going to work hard. He's not got a chip on his shoulder, but it's just not happening for him. And he's at an age and he's got the ability to play in a good side. So give him that chance, free up the budget, and let Andy Woodman cook with whatever he's got his eye on.
Listen, we're approaching the end of this particular deep dive, but it would be remiss of me to not talk about. I might talk about two things, but definitely one. So let's start with the one that we should definitely talk about, which is the cup. We're out the cup. Lost to Bristol Rovers at home. And it was controversial in so much as Omar Shomni, scored a headed goal in injury time, which still no one can establish what that decision was all about.
Yeah.
The thing is, the decision was ridiculous, Cole, and it should have been a goal. I think all the Bristol Rovers players thought it was a goal. The only person in the whole ground, I reckon, who didn't think it was a goal was the assistant referee and then the referee, because I think the referee had already given it a goal as well until the assistant referee motioned to indicate something. At the time, I thought it was ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, was ridiculous. But then the other part of me was like, well, I had my cup run last season. So I found it, after a day or so, I was like, well, it just kind of is what it is. Granted, highly frustrating. But what was your view on all of it, Colin?
Decision-wise, baffling. Can't. Well, I heard so many different theories walking out the ground as to why it had been disallowed. None of those stand up when you watch the replay. Wasn't offside, wasn't handball, wasn't a push. Still don't understand why it was. But it wasn't, we didn't really deserve to take it to extra time. We were poor for a lot of that game. It's the worst we played in a long time. And I think we probably deserved to go out. I think it would have flattered us to have taken it to extra time. But equally, the same as you, I wasn't that upset. We were very lucky with what we had last year, right? Newcastle was, very, very special. And this year, it does feel like maybe this year, the big story for us is pushing in the league. So maybe we don't need cup distractions. Although obviously financially, I'm sure Robin was very upset.
Pete, anything to add on that?
Well, you know what? We caught up with him after that game, after the Bristol game, and that didn't come up in topic conversation. Robin didn't seem too upset, but then I'm sure in the days that followed, he was looking at a spreadsheet, wondering, all right, now what? But it's a strange one because I'm the same. I felt like last season, you almost feel like Bromley could not have another cup run for a decade, and they still would have got out. They still would have had their big day out, as it were. But yes, it was farcical. Andy Woodman said he got an apology email. We take him at his word, but who knows what the content of that email was. But Bromley didn't necessarily deserve much out of that game. They got roughed up by Bristol Rovers in the same way as at Cambridge. Bristol Rovers did a job on them. They were probably one of the first teams I've seen at Hayes Lane doing the defensive stuff in set pieces to stop Bromley from being effective. But then you get the weird decision, and that's it. So you have to take your lumps because at that point you probably were behind, probably rightfully so. And it's just difficult to walk away from a game when you should have at least had a shot at extra time, or penalties. So. Hey, on to next season. I'm not too upset about it because I think Andy Woodman said after that match, speaking to MASH, the same time last year, around the Newcastle game, Bromley picked up 1 or 2 points in a sea of games. This season, they've got no excuse, no cups apart from the local cups, which are more for the younger players. So no excuse. All about the league. Players should be fresh. players should be biting to get in the team. There's nothing to stop them now, really. Injuries barred. There's nothing to stop them giving it absolutely everything in the league.
And gents, finally, before we go, Colin, you made reference to it earlier on. I've not been there yet, and I don't even know when I might do it tomorrow. I think Bromley B are playing tomorrow.
They are, yeah.
Yeah,
They
so Bromley B are playing. I play Norwich. My plan at the moment is to go to that game tomorrow. Yeah, so if the East stand is open, I'm not sure it will be, but if it is, I'll venture over there. But I know Pete likes to watch, or likes to watch his season tickets for the North stand. So talk to me, Cole. What's the obviously with your whole Bromley history hat on here, we know what that end or that side terrace used to be. What's the experience been like? How's it felt watching Bromley grow up now with what looks like a proper football league stand, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. The view is really, really good. It's lovely to have a roof over the top of you. Yesterday was the first time we've really, really benefited from that. Obviously, the other facilities aren't there yet. Okay, we have festival toilets and one tea hut. Okay, but that is. Man, look where we've watched Bromley play in the past. It's hardly slumming it. It is what it is. But the stand itself is a really good place to watch football from. And I'm sure once everything's in place underneath early part of next year, it'll be a great, asset for the club as well. I'm sure supporters will really enjoy it. But I'm enjoying watching football from my position back with all the people that I usually watch it with, because obviously we were scattered all over the place from February last year as to where we could get allocated. So it's good to be back, and I'm really enjoying it.
Before I go to Pete to end it, Pete and I were discussing post-match yesterday. The attendance, the named attendance yesterday was 3,903, right? And I've written about it in the Good, Bad, Ugly, which, like I say, will be after we finish. I'll probably post that. But I said to Pete yesterday, where did they all come from? Because earlier on in the season, Cole, there was a game this season where we got 1,400. Was that Fleetwood at home or something?
Yes, it was.
I need to go back and remind myself, but there was a league game where we got 1,400, right? Yeah. And I know we had a reduced attendance, but that wasn't even full for the reduced attendance. So I know Premier League wasn't on yesterday, but I refuse to believe that word of the law of the East Stand has spread up and down Bromley High Street. And that people have said, what? New East Stand, let me flock to Bromley. But where do you think the crowds are coming from, guys?
I think you look at the league table, that helps without a doubt. And you know what the public has always been like with Bromley. I mean, back in the Ishmael League days, if we got an FA Cup game at home, we'd pull in 3,500 all of a sudden. And then the next week they'd all be gone again. But, I think the league table helps. I think it's a lot easier to get tickets now. The ticket website, fingers crossed, works a lot better than it used to. So I think that's helped without a doubt. But yeah, it's probably more league position than anything.
Pete, anything different you want to add to that?
Well, there would have been a lot of day trippers yesterday because the Premier League wasn't on. Yeah. But I'm always of a belief, like when Bromley are playing well, either playing well or getting results, and a last-minute winner sends everyone home happy, all the day trippers, just that little bit more interested in coming next time. Because I've always been of the mindset, why be an armchair Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham fan when you can still be that and have a season ticket at Bromley, or there's no harm in that. And so many of those sort of Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham have made the switch to Bromley, and flipped it around. So Bromley's their first club, and those are the sort of the life stay. Those are the sort of 1,400 who come to Fleetwood. They're the ones who are slowly growing, and the away attendance is slowly growing. When Bromley go play away, they're taking more and more. So there is the core fan base that used to be probably about 100, 200, 300. I think is now at sort of 1,000 1,200, 1,300. So there's still that floating 1,500 that can take or leave it. And I think a lot of that floating crowd were there yesterday. But I've got a funny feeling that they're going to be a little bit more buoyed by what they saw yesterday than in recent years, and those bumper crowds that used to come for the cup ties, Dartford stands out in my mind as like an absolute, what an atmosphere that was all those years ago. And yeah, I think that atmosphere, now that the big stand is there now, the East Stand, I think that atmosphere stays in the ground a little bit more and people feel it a little bit more. And I think that will start to affect how people perceive the ground, perceive the club. And I think it will help it to grow. But they need to carry on being consistent with, giving reduced price tickets for kids and stuff like that. And because they'll be the next generation, they'll be the ones coming in and filling it. Because that stand, the East Stand, it might have no facilities now, but people are going to be standing on that stand for 50, 100 years. And it's so this early phase is a blip in the ocean, and it's great to see fans filling it. It's great to see that atmosphere staying in the ground. And as long as Bromley are doing well, I think the crowds will start to creep back now. But the acid test for that is the next game when all the Premier League's back. That'll be the acid test. But it was lovely to see, and I hope that the floaters who came yesterday feel the vibes. You never know. Subscribe to From Bromley with Love.
most definitely. And actually, I'm really glad you ended it by saying feeling it, because when Colin was talking about being on the East Stand, that obviously I'm in the John Fiorini, and what I noticed yesterday, particularly when Kabamba scored the winner, there was a kind of unmistakable hum of noise that the acoustics from the East Stand, it kind of felt all hemmed in within the ground. I don't know how to explain it other than that's what I felt from the John Fiorini side of being like, whoa, I can actually feel the noise. As opposed to the noise just dissipating out of the ground, I could feel it within the confines of the ground itself. And I think the East Stand just adds to the all-round acoustics of being in a football ground. I don't know yet. Obviously, you've got the North Terrace Ultras who make a lot of noise with the drum and stuff. I don't know if the East Terrace will ever get an equivalent. I don't. It may forever just be the East Terrace of discontent. I don't know.
It's the retirement home for the North Terrace.
But if we can get an element of it'll be interesting to see, I guess, where the youth go next season. I wonder if they'll graduate over to the East.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
they've done that a couple of times on the cup games. They've gone over there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering. I mean, I can't speak for them. But maybe they're among themselves. They're chatting about that as an option for next season, because the noise stays in so much better because the roof's bigger.
Yeah.
And one day the North Terrace will get a revamp, and I'm sure it will have a bigger roof. But yeah, I won't be surprised if they move across there next season. But maybe one of them, if you're watching, if those conversations are going on, tip us off.
Most definitely. Yeah. Right, listen, people, just shy of 45. That's the longest we want to go on this show. Thank you as ever for listening to the latest edition of the Deep Dive. I know I keep getting comments from people, DM saying, Mash, they need to happen more regularly. And every episode, I go, yeah, we're going to do it more regularly. And then what happens is a month later, one of Colin and Pete goes, you want to do another one? I'm like, oh, yeah. So get in the comments, people. You have to remind me that these things need to happen, because I will just naturally forget. Get in the comments. You can find Pete on the North Terrace, Col on the East Terrace. They're not shy. Have a word with them, etc., etc. And stay locked in, people. We'll be back very, very soon. I'll be Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt. Cole's been Cole. Pete's been Pete. This has been From Bromley with Love, the Deep Dive. And hopefully you'll see us again before 2025 is over. Up the Brom.